Welcome to Spain. Buenos dias, Tanya.
Hola, how's it going?
It's great. Bien. Muy
Bien.
bien.
Muy bien. Well, I think we'll just jump into my Spain because that'll kind of tell you how I'm going, how it's going here.
Okay.
It's kind of a, it's kind of in the middle. It's like a good Spain, but initially it was a bad Spain, and now it's kind of a quaint Spain. So it's going to cover all the bases, I think, here
Okay.
of emotions when shopping for things.
Well,
So
tell us.
tell us on the edge of your seat. So this has been kind of ongoing, and it was funny because but when I very first moved to this area and I was looking for stamps,
Okay.
I know this is going to be shocking to everybody. I went to the post office, okay, for stamps.
Which is where one would go for stamps.
One would think. And as we've mentioned before, we don't live in the city. And I do think that, it's something that initially they just said we don't have them. I mean, I was looking for international stamps. So
Okay.
from all the places I've lived, there's kind of stamps that go around the country, and then there's stamps that go internationally. And that does often depend on the weight of the letter and all this kind of stuff. So they were like, well, we don't have stamps, because I wanted to get like a book of stamps that I could take home and then mail my own letters as I wanted to send them, which seemed like a normal thing to do.
As one does.
Yeah, it didn't seem possible. So she was like, we don't do it. And then I was like, okay, so I've got to bring letters in, and then they print the whole thing. And that is one of the things that's nice here is they type everything into the computer for you. There's no filling out of any forms, which is awesome. And I love it. And then they just print the stamp kind of and stick it on the letter, and there it goes. And then after I'd been here for a while, I'm going to go down here again. I'm going to try this again and see if they have stamps. And eventually I found out they do have stamps, but they're like in the back in a filing cabinet, in a folder that she has to go back and get. So yesterday I went down and I was returning an Amazon thing, which was awesome. That's super easy. And you don't have to print the thing for that either, because they'll print it. And then I asked for some stamps. And again, it was like, oh yeah, okay. So she went back, got some stamps, brought them back to the front. It was the wrong stamps. It was the wrong folder of stamps. Went back, got another folder of stamps, brought it in. Eventually, I got a stamp. And I was like, this seems very difficult. Like,
Seems a little inefficient. Yes.
it should be easier. Like, aren't other people using stamps? And then, as it happens, I bumped into a friend at the post office, and she was like, you get your stamps from the tobacco store. And I'm
Well,
like,
duh.
what?
I mean, doesn't that seem obvious to you? I mean, you get your cigarettes at the post office and your stamps at the tobacco store. It seems fine to me.
Absolutely. It seems perfectly normal. Do not try and get cigarettes at the post office. That is not true.
That was a
Just
joke,
want to
ladies and
point that
gentlemen.
out. That was a joke. Very dry humor. So anyway, so I thought it was really funny because I was like, this is why I've been having such a hard time, because they do have stamps at the post office, but it's not really up here anyway, how they're kind of set up to manage it. And maybe if you're just getting some stamps to go around Spain, possibly they might have the folder right there. But if you're getting international stamps, it's in the back and it's a hassle.
Right.
So that was now that I know to go to the tobacco store.
It's probably a small town thing, right? Because you're in a small town and it's a more of a vacation weekend hometown, as you've said before. So they're probably like, this isn't what we're doing that much of here. But in the city, I've gotten stamps at the post office, and they were right there on the counter. They just pulled them out of their little cubby in front of them and said, this is what you need. So in the city, I can get them. I have yet to buy stamps at the tobacco store, but I have heard that.
Yeah, and I think also, I think also it's one of those things where it's one of those Spanish things we talked about before, where everybody knows something, but it's not marketed. Like, it doesn't say anywhere on the tobacco store that you can buy stamps there that I've seen. So it's not something that you know. Like, it's just something that everybody else knows, that unless you know, you don't know.
Right. And the tobacco stores also sell the Metro cards, the bus passes, which is
Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that either. I'm
and
now wondering, what else do they sell that I don't know about?
some of them have
I need to go in and
magazines,
investigate.
and they have bottles of water, and they even sell beer in the can. I mean, it's depending on the store. I think the convenience thing about it is because everything's closed here Saturday and Sunday. So I mean, it's kind of a aha, like
Right.
what a brilliant idea, because now you can get stamps on Saturday and Sunday. You can get your Metro card without having to go to the train. So you're like, I have time to get refill
Yeah.
my Metro card, so I'm not running in a line or waiting to use the machine. So
Right.
it's a very convenient thing,
Right.
and some tobacco stores are open on Sunday, so it is a very it's a brilliant idea. So
It's a brilliant idea. I just think it's funny, like the magazines, the drinks, the things that you can buy. Obviously, visually, you can see that. But for the other things, they're obviously doing a lot of other things that everybody knows that they do. So it's not something they need to put up on a door. And I think because of where we live, obviously there's not a lot of foreigners up here, so they're not used to having to deal with foreign stamps, and they would much rather just put the address in and print the thing and stick it on the envelope. But obviously some of us want to actually, just mail them ourselves as we write letters and just mail them.
Right.
And in the city, I bought postcards, and that shop, whoever it was, sold the stamp at the same time. So obviously there's a much bigger sort of need for it in the city, so you haven't come across this, but it was quite funny. So now that I know how it works, it's going to be much smoother.
right.
And that kind of leads us into the what this episode is about, which is, where we get things that we need. And it's not always, as you can tell, it's not always that logical, but it's all there.
It's all there. Yes, it's not as obvious as one would think. And then after you live here a while, you start training yourself to make it more obvious, right?
Yes, and I will say, in relation, just since we were talking about stamps, I do want to talk quickly about like birthday cards, thank you cards, any of these types of cards. Very hard to find.
It's not a thing here.
They do.
It's
It's not a thing. It's not a thing here.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
It's also not a thing. Well, gift giving to the extent that we're used to is not a thing here, and gift wrapping isn't a thing, right? We've talked about, I think, in the past about going into the Chinese stores will have gift wrapping paper, but like what I mean is the art of gift wrapping isn't a thing here. There aren't boxes. You're not going to buy shirt boxes.
Yeah.
I asked this friend, I'm like. And she looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, where do I get shirt boxes? This was our first Christmas. I'm like, I need boxes to wrap my girls' things in. And she's like,
Yeah,
no, you
yeah.
wrap the paper around it, stick a bow on it, and you're done. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, then I thought, I'm like, well, that is very environmentally friendly. It is, all that stuff ends up in the trash, but it doesn't look so pretty under the
Right.
tree Christmas morning with all the gorgeous, boxes seamed perfectly. Because I'm one of those OCD people when it comes to, wrapping presents where I don't want to see the seams and I line it up and the tape matches perfectly with the edge of the box.
Yeah. But I do think that, like, to be clear, wrapping gifts is a thing and giving gifts is a
Right.
thing. Just not with the boxes and the prettiness that you're talking about. You can buy wrapping paper anywhere pretty much. But the birthday cards, I have not come across that. I think I saw one shop in Valencia that was very kind of artsy and had some very cute little cards and things. But outside of the city, I mean, I'm not buying a cute birthday card. I'm not like, I went to find a card like a bereavement card, which I was like, I would have been happy just with a card with nothing written in it. It didn't have to be beautiful. I mean, that would have been nice, but I wasn't expecting that anymore. And it was annoying. Like, they just had the only place that had any cards had like 20 really awful birthday cards, and that was it. And I was like, so what I do now is I buy them in England when I'm there and I bring them back, and now I was bringing back cute stuff. I need to be a bit more like variable in the cards that I'm bringing back, because if you're somebody that likes to give cards, it's very annoying.
It's not a thing here. Gift cards are not a thing.
It's just not a
It's
thing.
not a thing. And
Yeah.
here the Chinese store has them, but they are horrible. They're just like And now
They are horrible, and usually birthday cards.
Right.
They don't have an array of different things, because I would have been happy with just a card with a really hideous flower on the front at this point.
And wrote your
Just like
message.
not
Yeah.
happening.
I will say that not a gift card person, because because they've gotten so expensive in America. So years ago I stopped that, and then this year I was like, I've never realized I realized I've never given my daughters a birthday card, because I'm like, it's $5. That's another toy. Like that's, and it just
That's true. It is. If you can find them, they're still expensive, even though they're hideous here. So as we talk about different places to find things, I think we've talked a lot about transition in other episodes, and sort of finding new things here. And I think might just be useful for people to kind of have a bit of an idea of where you find your basic stuff. I mean, everyone can go to local stores, find where you are, walk around, find your cute little local places to find things. But we're just going to talk about sort of kind of the main big things
The week you arrive,
yeah.
things. You got off the plane,
Yeah.
and you've gone to bed, and the next morning you don't have a coffee machine in your house, and where do you find that immediately, right?
Media Market.
Media Market.
And we're talking like, yeah, like in the city, out of the city, I think, you know, we have a slightly different an array of things, right? Because you have probably a way more smaller shops that might be selling things. So we'll kind of stay away from that. But yeah, I think Leroy Merlin is kind of like a Home Depot, like it's like a big hardware store. There are a few of them. That's one. If you're fixing anything, that's a good place to start. There's a couple of others.
And to for our audience, if you're moving to the city, they're not in the city, so this is one of those you have to travel out of town. There is one in Burgess, so it is a smaller one, but it has a lot of the stuff. Like it doesn't have the huge pile, the big wood and all that kind of stuff there, but it has a lot of the home improvement things that you need, and you can take the train there, but it isn't like in the city. Like if I have to go to that one,
you're getting deliveries back from there. You're not
deliveries, or if I'm just even going there, I'm like, let's have a 6-month list of the things we need to get from.
Oh, right, okay.
And then we just make it a thing, right? Then we make it that day, or I'm like, oh, we have a doctor's appointment near there, so we'll do it. All.
And those. And Leroy Merlin, which is not how you pronounce it in Spanish, but that's how I pronounce it.
I think it's something like Leroy Merlin, something like that.
It's actually a French. I think it's French.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh my God, well, that may not be, but I do believe it is. And it's probably not.
Probably not. Probably not at all.
But they have like the garden center, like you said. That one that you're talking about is quite small, and it's also a nightmare to park. So if you do have a car, go further out to one of the other places, because that one is a complete nightmare, but closer for people in the city if you're going to take the metro. But usually they'll have like a garden center. They also have a big outdoor, massive construction stuff if you need like concrete. I mean, they have everything. And they also have light bulbs, and it's a regular little hardware store, and they have pool stuff. So it's like literally everything, and it's a good place to start. And they do obviously online. You can buy online and get it delivered too. So you can just search their website and get stuff delivered if that's easier as well.
Right. I have not ordered anything from Leroy Merlin, but this harkens back to what we were talking about, the tobacco store. What it does, it also receives deliveries for you. I don't know if Leroy Merlin uses that as a pickup place, but Amazon does, Temu, AliExpress. You can have them delivered on their websites as a pickup location. Like you can't give them you can't put that as an address because they won't receive it. But what I mean is you can't type it in.
So wait, I don't understand how that works. You'll pick up your Amazon package from Leroy Merlin?
No, from the tobacco store. I'm saying this harkens back.
The tobacco store.
So I don't know if Leroy Merlin uses that as a pickup place, but like Amazon, Temu, AliExpress, there's a couple other places I've ordered from, and they're like, do you want to use this pickup location? And they've put down the tobacco store. Some places will use the real post office. Like IKEA uses the real post office as a pickup place.
I think that has increased a lot since I got here. I would say also, depending on where you live, you might find that you might be able to use an address of somebody that lives downstairs. One of the businesses downstairs, they might be happy to, even if it's not an actual legitimate place. But now I've noticed that there are a lot of legitimate places, even in the town that we live in. Like we can also get stuff delivered to places. Whereas before it was delivered to our house and randomly dropped off at some place that I'd never heard of.
Okay.
To go pick up. That was actually probably an Amazon drop off, but it wasn't that I knew.
Gotcha.
Because it's a bar. And I'm like, why does a bar have my Amazon package? I don't understand. And if we want to talk about deliveries, let's talk about deliveries quickly, because how you get stuff, and then we'll go back to some of the other stores to get things. How you get things in Spain is an ever-evolving story from a point of view of being outside the city.
Okay.
I will say. And I don't know if it's different for
well,
you.
We'll compare, because my story hasn't evolved.
It hasn't evolved. So when we lived in a little town outside the city, we lived in an apartment, and we were on like the 3rd floor. And what would continuously happen there was you had to let somebody into the building. And what would happen, the first time this happened to me, I was like, this is hilarious, but I guess it works, is I let the person into the building, and they put the package, and they put the package in the elevator and sent the elevator up. So when the elevator got to me, there was just a little package sitting there, no person. And I'm thinking, don't I have to sign or something?
Give your,
like
your
nothing.
social security number or whatever they ask for. No,
something, right? And I thought that was actually clever. It's like, he doesn't need to come up if he doesn't need anything signed, right? So so the package just appear in the elevator, which was like really fun. And then when we moved out into the mountains, initially it took some time for the delivery people. There's Seur, Seur. They do delivery for a lot of different companies. I've seen Amazon trucks like around and about, little vans round and about, but they've never come up here. So it's usually a courier company that will be delivering your packages from wherever they come from. Certain stores might be delivering their own stuff, but definitely Amazon and some of these online places are delivering using a courier service. And these courier services only kind of want to come to your house, right?
Okay.
They don't really want to come up there. So initially I would get these text messages and alerts saying, you weren't home, so it's now over here in this place. This is how my package ended up in a bar, right? And I'm like, I live at home. I work from home. I'm home. So, and then I would get calls where they hung up. Like, they just needed, I think, to show that they had called, but they didn't actually want to talk to me because they didn't actually want to come up here, right?
Okay.
And then once they had been up here a few times and realized that I had a spot they could leave packages, suddenly my stuff started getting delivered, and that was awesome. So it took a while for the courier service to get used to where we were, and that they knew where we were, and we knew we were home, and they knew that we had a place to drop it. And then suddenly stuff is getting delivered directly to the house. But it was a process,
right,
for sure.
On that note, I mean, in the city, like I said, I used the tobacco store, the post office, but for stuff that gets delivered at home, because, you know, if it's large items and stuff like that, it has to get home, or if there's liquids, they won't deliver to these places. But I will say they give you, most of the stores, when you're doing your order, they give you a window of 3 hours, which makes life a lot easier. So you get this, do you want your delivery between 9 and noon to 3, or, you know, that kind of thing. And they do come during that time. I haven't had one that didn't show up in that time frame, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And they also call you about 15 minutes before. And this happened to me one time. I was coming back from the school, and the delivery guy was like, I'm gonna be at your house in 10 minutes, and the train was just arriving at the North Station. And that's a 15-minute very brisk walk to begin with. And he's like, I've been 10 minutes. I'm like, can you wait like an extra like 5, because I'm at the station? Right. I had shin splints, I was sweating, I was crawling my way to get there. And he was so sweet, and he was like, here's your package. And what is about these courier services in the city, if you're going to deliver to your house, these smaller packages, they'll use Glovo, which was so weird to me because,
really?
Yeah, which, if people don't know, Glovo is your food delivery. It's like your Uber Eats, your, Instacart type thing in America, where you are ordering food.
So how do they get a hold of you? Because if you've ordered through Glovo, obviously they have all your information in the app.
So Glovo just must be a third party thing. And Temu gives them all the information that they need, and the delivery guy is calling you, and they come with their little yellow backpack with my package in it. It's very strange, but they do it.
Well, that's quite clever. Yeah, and I will say I agree with you. When we've had things delivered from a store, like we've had like a dishwasher and stuff delivered, that type of stuff has been very efficient. It's come in a 3-hour window, and then they'll usually tell you exactly what time within an hour or so of that window, and then it's always been incredibly efficient. Yeah, so I've definitely had that same experience with things that I've ordered directly from a store.
Well, now let's talk about where you have to pick up the day of. Right? You've arrived, and where are we going to go to the stores? We've talked about Leroy Merlin, but I want a coffee maker. We've brought up Media Market, so we should probably tell them a little bit about what Media Market has besides coffee
Media
makers.
Market. Well, so when we first moved, it was funny because like I didn't know where anything was, you know, and we didn't know anybody to ask, and it was, you know, and I don't think we were really part of any of these groups yet, and online. So it was very interesting to find these places. And Media Market was like one of these, oh my god, places, because it literally had everything from a hairdryer to your coffee machine, which
Right.
was the first thing we purchased. So when we went into COVID, we had a printer and a coffee machine, which was, we felt like, pretty much all we
That's
needed
all
to
you
be
needed
on
in life.
lockdown
Yeah.
for 3 months. And it worked. But Media Market does have everything: washing machines. I mean, it's electronics technically ish, right?
It's your like Best Buy in America, or the old Circuit Cities. That's the best way to describe it. It's like everything electronic it has there, but they even do sell coffee to go with your coffee machines, which I thought was very interesting. They have the big bags of coffee
Yes,
beans.
yes,
So,
absolutely.
um
Yeah, yeah, they do have some accessories of
accessories.
things, and you can buy your batteries and your headphones and all those sorts of things too.
Right. And we had when we first arrived, we needed a TV like the second day we arrived, right? Because we were just like the first night watching things, or the first two nights watching things on the computer, and there's a Media Market about 7-8 blocks from our house, and the kids and I were walking down the street with this 50-inch screen TV at 10 o'clock at night down the streets,
They were
and the
not
subway.
appreciating the size of the TV choice at that
Not at
point,
that
right? They're
point.
like, could we have a smaller TV?
And they weren't heavy. It was just cumbersome, and it goes back
Very
to the
cumbersome.
Spanish people were not moving out of the way of the sidewalk for us as we're carrying this
Oh my
this
god. You could have
TV.
taken them out,
Yeah.
so they really should have moved.
But another place to get those kinds of things would be your Carrefours, which is kind of like a Walmart-y Target kind of thing. So they have clothing and food and an electronics section, and there is one of those in the city by the City of Arts and Sciences, which is very large, and they are in many of
Yeah.
the smaller towns outside the city, or in strip mall
They're
type
they're
places.
out. Yeah, they're outside in the bigger cities. I mean, in the bigger towns.
Right.
And what we found, and this was purely just our experience, and these things change a lot, but we found that it was cheaper to buy our dishwasher and these kind of appliances from Carrefour, because what they offered back like a card with money on it to shop in the store. So, you might get like €100 back or something that you can then go buy groceries, or like you said, clothes, batteries, whatever, kitchen utensils, whatever. They have sort of everything. So that was kind of an added bonus when we were kind of shopping around. And this was several years ago, but when we were shopping around, we found that to be like, oh, this is nice.
Right.
It's not on everything, but then you have a Carrefour card, and that they have also printers, coffee machines,
Right.
all the little things as well.
That's where we got our coffee
But
machine. Like
it's
that was
all.
our next morning. I was like, let's go down to Carrefour. We had our little the shopping cart that the city people have to for our groceries.
Oh,
And,
there you go.
yeah, and we took that
You got
down.
smarter.
We got smarter. Well, I was in a group, and our ladies from upstairs had given me a bunch of tips before we moved. They told us about the stores. So like Media Market, here's where you want your phone. You can get things at El Court. Here's where you go, and then the Carrefour. So we went down there, and it was like loading it up with coffee makers and tea kettles and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we got that all
Plus,
done.
you're not gonna fit a TV in a trolley
No,
cart,
no,
I guess.
no.
So that situation wasn't going to be improved by any information
No.
you had at that point.
And then
Except
take
maybe
it on
get
the
it delivered.
well, we didn't think about it. We had just arrived. Now come on, I had no Spanish when we stepped foot, so I wouldn't even
Right.
have thought about having can get delivered, right? And
That is the other thing. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's easier to do things online because you can translate the whole website on Chrome or whatever, and maybe get things done a little more efficiently if your Spanish is like zero.
right.
But I would imagine too, in the city, you could maybe find somebody that speaks English to talk to you, and that wasn't the case for us. No one was going to speak to us in English anywhere. So a little different experience.
And there
like
is
that,
the
too.
El Corte Inglés, which is the big department store which you can get all these things. But it's it can be pricey. But it is I've said it my whole life. You've got to shop around because sometimes El Corte can be cheaper than the Carrefour because they might be having a big bonus sale this week on TVs or
They
something.
do have good sales, right? So I think maybe in January or something, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I don't shop there like hardly at all, but I have on occasion found a really cheap, nice like shoes and things for Xena at certain times of years when they have their sales. But out of the sale time, I would say much more expensive than anywhere else,
It is.
but different. And they have brands, and
They have brands, but they have their store brands. We do go shopping there for kids' clothes because they do have some store brands that are just on par price wise with the Primark Lefties kind of H&M price point, as well as having your Gucci type stuff, you know.
right. And
But
it might be where you end up if you have a child that needs a uniform anyway.
yes, they
Because
do.
that's probably where the uniforms are coming
There's a
from.
lot of uniforms that are coming through that place if the school allows you. Like some
Yeah.
schools, you have to buy them from their stores only. But
Oh, okay.
the what you're talking about in January, the Rabejas, is January after Three Kings Day until like the beginning of February, and then in the
Okay.
months of July, and some will carry over into August. But those are like the legally sanctioned um sale times through.
Legally
No,
sanctioned.
they are. It's a Spanish thing. It's a Spanish law thing that this is when you have your big sales, and it's like every store in the nation has their sales during January and in July. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
I could research it next time, but I did read that
I
it's a
think you'll have
thing.
to.
It's a
Yeah.
thing on paper.
And I will say I'm not I like I said, it's quite far for us to go, and they have an array, which is an issue when you're shopping with kids, but they have a massive back to school section. So you can get everything there, but if you're shopping with your kids, you can buy an eraser for €1 and buy one for €15 probably. So
Yes.
it's like, the fancy one with this. So if you're going to go with your kid and you have the kind of kid that's like mine, that's going to pick always the most expensive one, it's like we kind of stay away from El Court for back to school shopping because it's a bit of a landmine everywhere, but they
Right.
do have it, and it's great, and it's huge.
Yes.
But also you'll find back to school shopping, Al Campo does a really big one as well. Obviously the Chinese stores tend to expand that section as well.
I was gonna say we haven't talked about El Campo, which for our listeners who don't know what that is,
Right.
it is like a Carrefour type store. It's another.
Same similar thing, just different prices, but they have everything. I think Carrefour is a little nicer.
Okay.
But Al Campo, I think, but maybe their pricing is. I think Carrefour has has more of a variety of pricing and ranges of things, and I think El Campo is more like, I would say more like a Walmart. I don't know, and then maybe. And this is just my opinion. And then Carrefour maybe has a bit more of a variety, so it might
Okay.
be a bit nicer. Like you could buy an expensive thing, or you can buy a cheap thing.
I've only been to the El Campo once because it is not convenient for me in any way to get to one.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, there's one in
Yeah.
Port Supply, but I've only been there once when I had to pick up my daughter from a sleepover, and I took a cab there, and I was like, I'll go a little early because there's a
Right.
Leroy Merlin there, and there is a an El Campo. I was
They
like,
do have the two basic things.
they had
yeah.
the two basic things. I'm like, I needed something
Yeah.
from Leroy Merlin, and I needed something, and I was like, I'll go into this El Campo that I've heard things about, but
Yeah, and they have an El Campo in Bonaire as well.
Okay.
And that's the grocery store that's there. So I mean, I like El Campo, and I have found some food things there again. Because of where we live, our grocery stores are more restrictive, and some of these bigger grocery stores like that that are closer to the city will have a more variety of things, like something that we just cannot buy in our grocery store is a frozen bag of mixed fruit, for instance, for smoothies and things.
oh, that's
does not exist.
strange. No, because
Yeah,
we can
just
get that
doesn't
here.
exist.
Wow.
It's not. Yeah, not something they're doing. So we have to get closer to the city, or go to Carrefour or somewhere to buy those types of things. We have to go to a bigger, more sort of international place, I guess one could say.
And the good thing about the Carrefour is that one I do know is a French company. And so if you want French
That is.
cheeses, they have a lot of French cheeses there. So you'll go to there and you'll find they have some more
Yes.
international things that you couldn't find. And I think we may have
Well,
talked
since
about.
you brought up cheeses, I'm going to interrupt you here because I know you're going to move on to something, and you brought up cheeses. The cheeses in Spain. And no, I love it. I mean, sometimes there's not quite the variety that you might get in an American shop, I think, or a British shop as far as the types of cheeses. But I do love that you can get sheep's cheese and goat's cheese and mixes of sheep and goats and all these kinds of varieties, which like if you're a little lactose intolerant or something, the variety here, and then also just even if you're not, it's different flavors and different types of cheeses, and I just love it. It's a variety in Spain that, even though like in England, there's a big variety in the grocery stores, but it's still mostly cow cheese
Okay.
or a soft goat's cheese, right? But
Okay.
this you got hard goat's cheeses and hard like sheep's cheeses, and I do love that. It is a variety that I love.
And they had the pictures of the animals on the cheeses too, so you don't have to
Yes,
translate. So
it is
you know.
very useful. I'm not gonna lie, it's really handy because they will mix them a lot, so you kind of need that, right? And the fact that they do it is great. Yeah, that is a good point. Anyway, that's my little cheese tangent.
And I don't know if I had
cheese.
mentioned this in a podcast before, or just you and I have had this ongoing conversation about finding horseradish, which when we first moved here, I found horseradish,
Yes.
and then we used it all up, and
And
I,
you forgot where you got
I
it, which
forgot
was
where
the
I
big
got
mistake.
it.
Write this stuff down, people, if you find
well,
something
here's the thing is,
unusual.
I don't know if I forgot where I got it or where I got it just doesn't carry it anymore because I've been to every place I've been to, right? Like I've
Yeah,
retraced
that's
all
very
my
possible.
stuff.
Things do change.
And well, I had to go to my daughter's school up in Pusol, and there is a Masi Mas, which is another like chain of grocery stores in Spain, and they had horseradish from Germany on their shelves, and that Masi Mas has a lot more international stuff than you would find in the
They
city
do.
because up in that area is a subdivision or urbanization that caters to a lot of expats and it's a wealthier suburb. So you find a lot of international things at this Masi Mas that the other Masi Masas in the city do not carry. So I was like, let me just try this. This is my last hope for horseradish. I want to make a horseradish sauce for a prime rib this summer, you know. And there it was.
Yeah, it's also that area has a big British school and a big American school. So there's just a lot of people out there that will buy that stuff. So that Massey Mass next to those schools there are like just has a lot more British stuff.
Right.
And I think maybe the horseradish, I mean, that was kind of more of a British thing. So they have a lot more British things. That was the first place that I found the squash.
Okay, yes.
That I got you hooked on.
You got me. And when I go up to the school, I bring a backpack with me because I'm loading that sucker up with stuff from that store to bring back to the city. And I'm
Right.
buying 3 or 4 of these things because I don't go up there often.
Yeah, little did you know it would be horseradish.
Right. And this horseradish was from Germany, so it has the Spanish label over
Yeah.
the German label. But I was so excited. Then I was translating.
do
I'm like,
that.
I have to make sure this is horseradish because I don't know the German word for horseradish.
Yeah, well, that's true. You do need to make sure, or the Spanish one, probably, right? Whatever they stuck the label on. You're like, I don't know what that is either.
I don't know what any of this is. So we got that.
It's a good shop. It's a good shop, but I don't think that we have a Massy Mass over in Bettera. It does not have any international stuff in it. So this is not a store wide
No, it's
situation. It
definitely
is a
not.
localized situation.
For
Yeah.
sure, because I gone to the Massey Mass here looking for other things that the other one had, and nowhere to be found. The stuff that I was looking for.
No. but it's fun, you know. We could talk a little bit about the Chinese stores, which we were going to jump into,
Yes.
which we have spoken about before, but they are super duper handy and they are everywhere.
Everywhere, every block.
We lived every block.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we lived in a little town first, and that little town had 2 grocery stores and 3 Chinese stores. And they were in different parts. I mean, you could walk to all 3, right? But each one had a bit of a, like, this one was more gardening, this one was more school and craftsy stuff, and this one was more kitcheny. So they had kind of expanded each version to be a little bit different, but they are everywhere, and it's your variety store. If you've lived in a
Right.
location with a variety store, they will pack those places up top to bottom, side to side, with whatever they can fit in there. From light bulbs,
If you need
everything.
Yeah, if you're
Pens,
socks, underwear, t-shirts, pots and pans,
shoes,
rugs,
Gift wrap.
Tupperware, ice trays. They have it all. They have it all.
headphones, batteries, plugs to charge everything. I mean, just literally, and then things for your garden if you need a pot, or I mean, just literally everything.
I will say our first year here, I think we were at the Chinese store every other day, if not every day, because it was like, oh, we need this,
Yeah.
and it's across the street from the house. So I'd pick up the kids from school. I'm like, let's go to the Chinese store. Now I can say we
Yeah.
go maybe once every 6 weeks. Now it's not so often.
Yeah,
Right?
I would totally agree with that assessment. Now once you've got all your little things sorted out, it's just I go back there every now and again for a new charger if I don't want to wait for it to get delivered from somewhere, or maybe something for the craft, something for school,
Right.
some kind of project that I need some paper for, because they'll have the big sheets of paper
And
as
they'll have like
well.
emergency paint. Like they don't have the best paints there, but if
Yes.
you like, my daughter's an art, she's in an art program at her school, so we're often running out of paint, and they'll have at least a white's acrylic paint. Not her favorite brand, but it'll get her through her project. You know what I mean? They have that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think so you will, if you move to Spain, and I mean this part of Spain, I'm assuming it's the same in other parts of Spain, you will have a Chinese store within 2 blocks of
Right.
you, for sure.
Yes.
So that'll cover a lot of things, and therefore that area of stuff in the grocery stores is quite a lot smaller than it is in the grocery stores that I've experienced in England and America, which is that whole section of homeware, hardware stuff in the grocery stores is kind of small because it just doesn't need
It
to
doesn't,
be.
and you say it now that you're saying that, I'm like, I've never looked, but do they even have light bulbs at my grocery store? I don't think I've even seen light bulbs. Like their homewares where the cleaning supply section is, I don't even think I've seen light
Yeah.
bulbs. And you're not going to find like school paper or anything like that. That just
No. No,
it's
no.
foods and cleaning supplies and maybe some
And
random
pet stuff.
and pet stuff.
Pet
Yeah.
stuff. Pet food, not pet stuff. I mean, not like toys or anything, but pet stuff. Oh, yeah, and in the Chinese store too, loads of pet, not food, but the other stuff,
The other
all
stuff,
the toys
the
and the
toys and
bowls and the this and the that and all that stuff. Yeah. So we do like them. They're very handy. Not the greatest quality. You're going when you're buying stuff there. You're going to be buying it again,
Right.
probably.
Right.
But that's kind of the nature of that in any country. Like the place that's selling a lot of that stuff is probably not the highest quality, right?
Right.
But that's the nature of the beast, I think. And I think the other thing that was a surprise to me as far as needing to learn the system in Spain was the pharmacy,
Yes, it's a different
because
experience here for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
very different.
I
And
was surprised at how that there isn't a CVS type store, right? Where there is the you get your
no,
pharmaceuticals, your over the counter drugs, and your school supplies, and your wine, and your light bulbs, and and
really good
47 different kinds of shampoo and conditioners. Like that store
Right.
doesn't exist as a whole unit. There's 3 different stores to get
No.
that accomplished, right?
Right, and I think, if you want your shampoos and all this kind of like bathroom stuff, I mean, you could get that at Carrefour, you can get that in a grocery store a little bit. There's places for that. There are also some shops that just sell that type of
Like
thing.
Normal, which our girls have
Like Normal.
torture us
We
with.
love Normal.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Yes.
So Normal, just so anyone knows, is like a Danish, I think it's Danish, company.
Is it? I
Yeah.
don't know.
And it is like the CVS without the drugs. So it's all the shampoos and
Right.
body things and the razors and all this stuff for self-care and beautiness. And it's 2 floors.
And then
They're
like
huge.
peanut butter or candy or I think just random sweet things that are like, and then they actually have a couple of cards. I did find they have
Yes.
like 4 cards there, and I did find one card that was sufficient, and I maybe should have got more there, but it was like 4 cards.
Well, because they do have an etagere that is like a little like gift stationery section. Like, oh, I have a birthday party. I
Right.
bought them a bath bomb. Ooh, there's a cute little journal with a pen with a little pom pom at the end.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
If you need to shop for girls' birthdays under the age of, I don't know, you've got a
45.
13 still, 45. I was gonna say I'd be happy if you bought my birthday present there. It's but that's a city thing. Flying Tiger is also Danish, I think, isn't it?
I think, but yeah, it is. But that's not a
Yeah.
cosmetic.
And that's different. That's definitely so Flying Tiger. We're kind of going off a little bit from the pharmacy. We'll get back to that. But the Flying Tiger and the Alley Hopper, like these stores, both of them are these stores of nothing that you need and everything that you want.
everything you want.
Knick-knacky things.
You know, little games.
Oh, you want it all.
Little sunglasses, but
Yes.
Halloween supplies. They have those. The Flying Tiger does.
Yes,
have a
they
really
do
good
get
Halloween
big. Yeah,
section.
and Christmas and Easter actually, the Flying Tiger specifically does a nice little section for each of those holidays. But those are kind of sort of shops, or if you want to browse yourself and buy yourself some gifts, you will not get out of there without buying it something.
No,
for
exactly.
sure.
You will get stuff that you never knew you needed.
No, but back to the pharmacy. I think what was interesting about the pharmacy is that the pharmacy looks like it looks like it's just a pharmacy, but they do also sell some sort of little things, maybe some shampoos or whatever. But there's a lot of things that it's like having a second doctor in a way. Like they are actually incredibly helpful.
Yes.
You can go to them and say, I've got this thing, or my daughter's got this thing, and what's the best thing for that? And they will help you find the right thing. And on top of it, a lot of the medicine that you're used to having a prescription for in another country, you can get over the counter here from the pharmacist if they want to give it to you, if it's something that you need. So,
and
basic medications.
Basic medication, but as a relief, it's that those things that you're used to paying prescription for in the United States, when you get the bill here, you're shocked at how inexpensive it is. I mean, I have not had,
Yes.
I've never had sticker shock, even with my prescription drugs from the doctor. I'm just like, how is this like a tenth of the price or a fourth of the price or like nothing?
No,
But
it's amazing.
on the opposite end, if you're buying aspirin, ridiculously expensive compared to, like, you can go to the 99-cent store in America and get a 500 bottle of aspirin. And here, there's something like 30 aspirin for like €6. You're like, is that how you're making up the cost differential? Is that where...
Just on aspirin.
So when I have friends coming, I'm like, can you bring me a huge thing of aspirin, please?
Aspirin and deodorant, I guess, are the things that are coming over for you. Yeah, but things like blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, like all these sorts of things you don't even need a prescription for. I mean, if you get into the Spanish health system, you'll get that stuff basically for free or for 30 cents or something a month. But you can come over and get some basic things. So if, I know a lot of people are concerned, especially about the first few months of coming over and how they're going to manage their medications sometimes. And I think it's worth asking, even asking someone here to ask a pharmacy or calling a pharmacy directly if you speak Spanish and just saying, is this medicine something I can get without a prescription?
Right.
And I think that can happen a lot. You'd be surprised.
And I've heard...
so they're very, very helpful.
I've heard stories. So I'm going to add into this because it's a little off topic, but on topic, since people are listening about moving here. What we did and what many doctors will do, and they should do for you, is you can get even medications that they can only prescribe for 1 month at a time back in the States. And so I don't know about in England if it's different. They can prescribe it for 3 months with a travel advisory saying this, they need 3 months for travel. And now you can't go back to your pharmacy in America next month and get another prescription because now you're out of medication or the ability to refill it for 3 months. So that's what we did when we moved here is I got all of our medications for 3 months. So we were settled and that gave us time to find the doctors. But what I've heard from other people is they've taken their empty prescription bottles to the pharmacy and the pharmacist has been helpful and said, you do need a doctor, but we can give you X amount to get you through next week or something.
I was going to ask, so to be clear, when you bring the prescription over, you're saying the pharmacist will fill that prescription, even though it's not from a Spanish doctor?
No, I filled it in America. I had a 3-month supply when we arrived.
Oh, you had 3 months from there.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so you had 3 months from there and came... Okay, got it. That makes more sense. I'm glad I clarified that because I was thinking it was you come here. And then you have time to go to a doctor. And most people coming here from another country, if they're on the non-lucrative visa or something, you have to have health insurance.
Right.
Private health insurance. So if you're living here, you can go straight to IMED, see a doctor, get the prescription sorted, and you're done. And you can get all that done within the first week of being here.
You really can.
Very, very
it's
easily.
Surprisingly shocking to me how efficient that system was for me when I got doctors. And they're like, they literally you walk in and they're like, well, first, what do you need? What are you on? What do you need? Let me get you started with that. And then we'll talk about how to make you better or what we need to manage you.
And I've been surprised at not only the cost of medicine here, but the amount of medicine that you can get without a prescription. So obviously you don't want to be carrying on getting medicine without a prescription. You need to get a doctor and be, have somebody, monitoring you. But from a transition point of view, it's very easy. And the pharmacists are also just incredibly helpful. I did say this already, but I want to reiterate that they will help you with minor things.
They're almost like nurses, right? Like they have they have a wealth of information and they're very happy to help you with it, right?
Yeah, and that's especially helpful when you're in a new country and you don't know even what the medicines are called that you need. So I've also taken medicines that I had, not medicines, but like I had a mosquito bite cream that I had in the States. I bought it here. They looked at the ingredients and gave me something that was similar, and now I'm using the Spanish version of it. So you can bring those things too and just bring it to the pharmacist and say, I need something that does this, and there's going to be something similar. It's just not going to be the same brand.
Right.
And that was also helpful because they are very helpful. And some of them might even speak English in the city, maybe. I don't know.
There's plenty that, or there's at least one person that will speak enough English to get you through. So we haven't had the problems. And I mean, there's one pharmacy that we go to that we know them a lot. And we know them because sometimes it's hard to get medications here, and there's been times where there's worldwide shortages of stuff. So we've had to go through a lot of pharmacies to find certain medications because it was a worldwide thing. So not a pharmacy issue. And there was this one pharmacy that must be with a larger group of pharmacies. Like they're like, they all look the same when you walk in, but they are owned by different people. But I think there's must be a thing, they all have to look the same. It's kind of like the tobacco stores, they all kind of look the same, they all have the same sign even though they're owned by different people. Anyways, they were able to find medication and have it to us like the next day, and they don't speak any English, so but a lot of Google Translate, but they've been super helpful, and like, this is what you need.
I've used a lot of Google Translate in the pharmacies for sure, and people here will be happy to talk into the Google Translate for you, and then you can go back and forth like that. And also, even outside the city, so I'm assuming it happens inside the city, everywhere there is a 24-hour pharmacy that's open, and at all times. So it may not be the one in your town, it may be the one in the next town, and then sometimes they rotate. So we were in a town before where there were two pharmacies, and they would rotate back and forth on which one was open 24 hours. So you just have to, but there is going to be one that is open. So you can always find a pharmacy open at any time, which is also very helpful.
Heard that, but I have yet to have experienced. Have you had to go to the pharmacy in the middle of the night?
No, thank God. Okay. But I have gone... not in the middle of the night, but I have gone at times when I know it would have been closed.
Like a Sunday?
I don't know, 3:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
When
siesta time? Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. So at times it's still, we're up and out and doing things, but probably the other pharmacy is closed and this one's open. And Google seems to be keeping pretty good track of that. But if the one that's closest to you isn't open, just go to the next one. And they'll have, they have the blue lit sign that's on the side of the road, wherever that...
You mean green?
Is it blue or green?
It's
green. Sorry,
green
blue.
Cross, yeah.
Okay. The blue cross is a veterinarian, and the green cross is the pharmacist. So the one that's open will have it lit up.
Right.
So they don't just keep them lit up all the time. So if you're driving around looking for one that's open, you'll see that sign, and sometimes it's not right next to the pharmacy. It might be on the main road telling you that it's down that street, and then they might have another one. So yeah, so you have that too.
And then there's the parapharmacia. Have you seen those? Which is like...
No, what's that?
Which I've only been to once. I was like looking on this, like looking for this medication, scouring every block of the city. And and I walked into one, like, do you have this? I had the green cross. And he was like, we're a parapharmacy, which is like the holistic pharmacy. So it has non-prescription-y, non-chemical... I mean, it's all this more nature-y kind of stuff.
Right.
But it had the green cross.
So that goes after, I'm not going to say it right, but it's the herbalaria place. And they have those in like every town. And they're the herbalists. So they do have, like you said, herbal medicine.
Right.
They have the homeopathic things. Yeah. And they're in almost every town. Like we were in a very small town and we had one. And those places are great because you can, if you don't have a really bad situation going, you can be like, I have this issue, and if they don't have it, they'll order it. Same with the pharmacies. If they don't have what you need, they'll order it and it'll be there the next day.
Right. Or sometimes that afternoon if you went in the morning, because they just get it messengered from wherever their warehouse or their other pharmacy that they own.
Yeah. So the pharmacies have been a very good experience, I will say.
It's a refreshing experience.
In my opinion. A refreshing experience. Yeah, because I think in England we have Boots, which is very much like the CVS, Walgreens, where it's like you get everything there. But the pharmacy part of it is not so helpful, I would say. They're really there to fill the prescriptions and get things out the door, and not really interested in helping you with your ailments, I would say.
Right, because I think it's like in America, right? They assume the doctors talk to you about all this. They're just... moving product,
And I don't think they want the liability of talking to you and giving you
sure,
something. And they probably can't even give you the thing that you need because it's a prescription.
right.
So they're kind of also, their hands are tied to even really help
I
you
didn't even think
properly.
about the liability. They probably can't even tell you about what bug spray to get across the aisle that's over the counter, because if you get a rash, you could
Right.
sue them. So who knows?
Right. Yeah. So big problems. What else do we need it to shop for, do you think? I mean, we obviously have,
We have the IKEAs, which they're everywhere,
I
which
was going to
is
say, yeah.
important. On the day you arrive, you want to go to the IKEA to get your, emergency dishes or your regular dishes, like whatever you find there you like. And there is one south of the
Hmm.
city. You can order online. They will deliver for a very reasonable fee. I mean, I think we had all these beds and we had a bunch of stuff coming. I think the delivery was like $30 or something ridiculously
And
inexpensive.
you, oh, yeah, and then you had a nice experience that somebody did that for you before you even got here, so
Yeah.
your stuff was there. So if that's something you can coordinate, or you're as lucky as Gaetano was, that is like a dream, right?
And to reiterate that experience of our real estate lady helping facilitate this IKEA delivery, she wasn't the only one that offered, because we had talked to several real estate people, and I was like, we
Mm,
want to move in the day, and they're like, we will help facilitate that. So if you are moving here, I would ask the real estate agent if they would be willing to do that for you, because it was offered to me
absolutely.
versus me asking. So that means it is a service many are already providing. So it doesn't hurt to ask if someone will do that for
Yeah.
you, because it was very nice to move straight into our place with a mattress on the floor and some plates.
Yeah. And I will say, if you have a car, also, a lot of these shops, a lot of these big box shops that we're talking about, they have click and collect, which means you can buy online and then go pick it up and
Mm-hmm.
get it the same day. And that's for clothes, that's for everything. Like we've done that at, I have to talk about Decathlon because that is one of the best stores that I have experienced that we
Okay.
don't have in the States or in England, I don't think. Um, and that's like all your sportswear, all your sports stuff. If your kid's starting a new sport, that's where you go and get the stuff, because they have the basic level for sport starting in
Mm-hmm.
every sport, and then they have the fancy stuff. So if you're starting paddle tennis, for instance, they have like a cheap, it's not a cheap racket, but it's a good racket. It does the job, but it's not very expensive. And then if you are a professional, you can go there and really get like a really nice racket. And this applies for like all sports, including camping.
Right.
Love it. And clothes. And they also have like we've done a lot of things where we had a project where we wanted to like tie-dye t-shirts. Well, they have like €4 t-shirts there,
Mm-hmm.
your basic white tee, your basic black tee, that type of thing you can get. So I love that store.
Yes, I do like the Decathlon
Love it,
too.
love it.
We got a tennis racket very cheap, cheaper than I could have found on Amazon for the
Yeah.
purposes that we needed it for. Right, so that was very
Yeah, but
happy.
they also do bicycles, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they have everything. So if you are really into something and you want to go get something that's very fancy, and you can do it, paddle boards, whatever it is, they have everything there, as well as the clothing for all of those sports.
Right.
So it's kind of you, and swim stuff, great swim gear, like just really, really good. And you can click and collect. You can go online, browse, buy something, and then have it sent or picked up in a store, and
Right.
it's there for you to go get, which is a way of getting stuff a bit quicker if you have a car.
Right. And even if you don't have a car, a lot of these, like in the south of the city in Alpha Far, there is uh a bunch of like strip molly type places. So all those big box stores are there. So you can take the train or a cab down there if you're from the city and kind of get all this stuff and have it delivered back, or train it back. But there's the IKEA, there's a bunch of furniture stores of different styles and all that kind of stuff. You've got the Leroy Merlin, you've got all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff down there. So if you've just arrived, if you go down there, you can get a lot of stuff done, and maybe stuff won't be delivered for a few weeks depending on the kind of furniture store, if it's a semi-custom or one of these kinds of places. But they have like a Maisons du Monde down there. They have all these things, so get your butt down there. You can get
And you will be walking
you
because it is
will.
big box. So if you need to walk from one store to another, that could be a good 15-20 minutes, I would
Yes.
imagine.
It's yes. And we did it in July.
There you go. Yeah, I would say just take a look on the map and make sure that all the stores you want to visit are kind of within walking distance, or you're willing to take a taxi if there are taxis that are down there willing to move you. But yeah, like you said, it is all down there for sure.
Right.
Yeah. And there might be sort of mall-y places. I don't know what else is in that, the Leroy Merlin that I don't want to go to in a car, the one that you go to in the city. I don't know that if there's other sort of Decathlon or places there.
You know, I don't know
Yeah.
because I just go into there, but there's like an Aldi in that mall. There's a ginormous Chinese type store, bazaar type store, and it's
Okay.
ginormous, but and
Yeah.
it has stuff you wouldn't see normally in the city. Um, and they
So
have
that could be helpful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a lot of stuff there, but some of the stuff we can get in the city as well. But I think there's also one of those go-kart places in there as well, so you can take your kids to go-karting.
There is, and I don't understand how that works because I can't see. I thought that would be a really fun thing to do with Xena, but I can't see where the go kart is. Is it all just indoors? Do you think?
Yeah,
Because I
it's an
feel like they
indoor
should have something in
thing.
the back.
No, so it must be
Oh,
indoor,
okay.
maybe in the basement. I haven't been inside of it, but I have seen the videos. You know, I have seen what it looks like. It's an
Yeah.
indoor go-kart track place, which I would go to. I mean, I'm a little kid still.
Yeah, I think we might need to do like a go kart trip there. I think
I think
it
so.
looks really fun, but I always forget about it because it seems like not the place for a go kart place, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things that I keep seeing and thinking, oh, that's fun, and then I'm like, yeah, that can't be right.
They are usually in warehouse districts, and this is definitely not a warehouse district for sure.
No,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of space there,
Yeah.
so I don't know if you're just going around like a one little tiny roundabout. I don't know what's going on inside.
You get dizzy when you're done.
Right, exactly. Oh my gosh. One thing we did miss was Teddy, which is sort of somewhere between a Chinese store and a proper store in the sense that it is all the little things that you want, and it has a lot of craft stuff, and it has a lot of things you can buy for birthday presents. You can get socks and kitchen utensils and things for your dog there, but it's a little nicer. I think it's a German shop. I think
Yeah,
it's
Teddy's
German.
German.
It's a it's just a little nicer. The utensils are a little nicer than you get in the Chinese store. Everything's just a little bit more designed. It's still not great super quality, but it is it's a nice place to browse, and you can get almost everything there, including little garden things, and they have a pretty good area for, holiday things like Halloween and Christmas and stuff too.
And arts and crafts, and it's one of those places that changes all the time, so you want to keep going in because you never know what they're gonna have.
You
If you're
never know what you might
so I
find.
don't go in all the time because I don't need more stuff.
Yeah, but if you need more stuff, it's a good place to go.
And they have a good arts and crafts section to keep bored kids busy, so they do have that as
They
well.
do. Yeah, that is true. They do. If you need to make anything, they have a great craft section.
Yeah,
Probably what drives us. So I think that pretty much covers our basic shopping needs.
yeah, I think that we've covered what you need the first couple weeks you arrive, and then
Yeah,
then
and
you'll
how to
figure out
get
the
it,
rest and how to
maybe.
get it. Hopefully,
It's not always easy, but it does work.
it does work. On that note,
Yeah.
ciao.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
Hey, can't get enough of us? Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Osbane Podcast.
And on our website, arspain.com, which we will be updating with exciting new things as we grow.
We would love for you to message us with any topics you would like to hear about.
See you next time.
Bye!